Okay, here we are. We've got ourselves project number 3, and this is kind of cool because often one of the things that we do regularly here is we pick up old sewing machines, antique treadle sewing machines, and we use the bases, put a piece of live edge or reclaimed on top, and it makes a lovely little haul table. I'm going to try and post a picture in the video to give you an idea what I'm talking about. But often what happens is we get left over with this top section that, and if you look inside here, it often holds an antique sewing machine. And how these work is that this swivels up and locks in place, and you're able to sew with it. And they had a leather belt on them that hooked them to the treadle, and 100 years ago this is how people sewed. And there are tons of these around. If you look on Kijiji or on Facebook, you'll find there's always somebody selling one. But like I said, what often happens in this situation is we get left with this piece, and it's really useless. It's haven't been able to find any use for it at all, and we often just toss them out because the machines themselves usually are in need of a lot of repair and don't really work that well. So here's our next project, because what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to turn it into something so that we're not throwing it out. And this is really cool because I know we've got 3 or 4 of these lying around the shop, and they're all basically the same size and look the same. And I think when you see what we're going to do with it, you're going to be quite surprised on how cool this could be in your house. So I hope you'll join us for the rest of the video, and I hope you like what we're going to do as much as we enjoy coming up with the ideas. All right, so enjoy. All right, we've got it all apart, held together with flathead screws, no glue. We just took all the screws out. There's all our hardware and hinges. There's some of our pieces there. So that's the back side. We've got it apart, and we flip it back over. And there's what our front panel looks like now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this side back in. We're going to take that piece off of there right now. So I'm going to pull those screws there. And we're going to flip that over, put it back in, and then we're going to cut us a nice little shape here before we start sanding. And getting it ready for the build. But you can see that happen, like we were able to get that apart in about 5 minutes. So we really don't have much work in this so far at all. But it's coming together. Just before we go ahead here, I'm going to point out a couple of things that I can show you. What we've got size-wise on this is on our width, we're looking at about 17 inches. And on our length, there you can see we're about 35.5. On our center section here, we're looking at about 15 by 20 and a half, somewhere in there. And this is kind of key to making this work for what we're going to use it for, because it's that 14 and a half and the 17 that becomes the 2 magic numbers, and that kind of inspired us on what we were going to use this for. So maybe you can figure out the key 14 and a half inch number there and what we're going to use it for. But when you come back, we're going to have cut and started to sand, and you're going to see and maybe be able to guess how this is going to come together. Okay, well, we've got our piece back on. We've glued it and nailed it in place. And what we've done is we've drawn a line around on the inside here. We kind of used this existing edge here, gone up here, and we've gone through here so that we take these areas out that used to hold the machine in. And then we've come along using this edge all the way down to our corner here. And what we've tried to do is these are the cutouts for the hinges for the door that goes over the top. And we're going to try and keep those because we're going to put that door back on. So what we want to do now is go ahead and cut our lines so that we get a nice square opening. And then we'll come back and fill some of these holes and sand it up. And you'll get an idea of what we're trying to do. All right, so we built ourselves a little box. We're 5 1/4 inches deep, which is really important, and you'll see why later. We fit it into our cutout that we made, and we just used a handsaw and a jigsaw we drew some lines, we squared it and cut it out, and we built the box out of some wormy maple that we had left over from another job, and we've got ourselves a nice little panel now with an inset. And we put a little PL on the back just to glue it in place. And like I said, we went back to our trusty Bondo to fill in all our little gaps along the side and some of the cracks that we had and some of the joins that we had to put together. If you remember, we had this piece here that joined that together, so we got that put together. Same over here, we've got a seam there that you can see, and I'm going to show you a neat little trick on how to hide all that stuff when we put this together and do the final sand. So we're going to let this dry overnight. We started this project really late in the day, on the way to a customer's house right now, so we're going to let this dry overnight, and when we come back in the morning we'll finish it up and get our video up on YouTube for you to watch. But thank you for your time so far. Okay, we finished our sanding. You can see we just kind of went over it, took all the old varnish off. We didn't get right down to taking the stain off because we're going to paint this one white, but we could keep going if we were going to stain it. But you get the idea. So now what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over like that, and we've got our backside here, and we've cut ourselves a 1/4 inch piece of MDF that fits on the back, and we're just going to go ahead and nail that in, and that's going to give us our backside to our little cupboard. Alright, so we've got a coat of white primer on our insert now, and we might do another coat so that we don't have to spray so much lacquer on top, but you get the idea. We're just about ready to go. We've just finished the sanding on the door front, so we're going to go ahead and put a coat of primer on that. And this is a Zinsser primer, so what it does is sometimes on old wood with old Varathane and stain on it, you'll get some bleed through, especially with knots and that kind of thing. So the Zinsser kind of seals everything in. We're using a water base on this unit, but primer's a really important step if you want to have this thing turn out nice and get it all nice and white. But you get the idea. It's looking really good. Came out really nice. So when we come back, we'll be doing the final spray and putting her back together. All right, as you can see, we've put a couple of coats of Zinsser on on our piece here. And what we're going to do is, you're not going to pick this up in the video, but you're going to see some brush strokes and some lumps, and we want to give this a nice coat of white, finish it off, make it a nice cabinet. And so what we've done is we put some 320 on our sander and a nice fine grit, and we're just going to go over it lightly without burning through it, just to give it a nice smooth finish. So here we go. Alright, we're going to go at it now. We've got it all sanded down, and we're going to go at it with a little Rust-Oleum spray. Normally on bigger jobs we we'll spray it with a compressor and a proper spray gun, but on a small job like this, a can of this will do just fine. So we're going to give it a quick coat, let it dry, and put the door back on. Alright, so here we are with our finished product. Still kind of drying, but you get the idea. We've got our cupboard in there. We've got our door with our original hinges that we cleaned up. And there it is there. And of course, it closes up. And you get the idea. Looks really nice. So the bonus here with this is that when you put it in the house, or if you're going to install it, you've got that inset at the back. We sprayed it black just to give it a cleaner look. But because it's only 14.5 inches wide, or less than that, in the inside box, you can actually cut out the drywall in your wall and cut a hole for it, slide it in, and you'll have a recessed cupboard in between two studs. Most studs are 16 inches on center. That's the code. That's what they're supposed to be. And you pick a spot on the wall where you've got two studs. You give yourself a little cutout of 14.5 inches, and this will slide in to that cutout and sit flush on the wall, except for the raised up portion of the door. So we're thinking, depending on, we haven't done anything else to this right now, because depending on how we install it, we could put a chain from the door down to the front here and actually use that as a shelf and have it open down. We could have it open up. We could actually cut out a 2x4 and have it open sideways. There's a bunch of different uses for it. So this is a cute little knick-knack thing. What we're most excited about is that this was headed for the garbage. And it just goes to show you that with a little bit of ingenuity and a little bit of thinking, you can actually make something that serves a purpose, looks kind of cool, and has a story behind it. So like always, I hope this has inspired you. If you notice in the background here, we're currently working on a coffee table that we've stained in gray. This is one solid piece of maple. And we're going to be putting that together with some legs, and in a future video I'll kind of sneak in what that looks like when it's done. But that is a monster tree, and it's going to make a really nice coffee table for somebody in their house. So we're in the middle of the finishing process. That's why it looks kind of dull right now. And we've got some really cool legs that we're going to put on it that we'll show you next time. So thank you again. Hope you enjoyed. Like I say, I hope this inspired you to look at things differently. Throw a little less in the trash and be a little more creative putting things together. You never know what you might be able to make. If you're interested in this piece, it is available for sale. We do have a couple more. I haven't checked to see if they all match exactly, but if they do, you could have yourself a couple of small little cute cupboards for a kid's room or a bedroom or or even a bathroom. So let me know. As always, give Amanda a shout, and she'd be happy to direct you and help you out with this. All right. But thank you again for your time. I really appreciate everybody watching. The response has been incredible. And on to our next project. I think you'll be really excited with what we're working on now. So see you soon.